Ambassador Velthar looked at the computer screen in front of him. His 3 hearts beat faster as he read the list of items on the Earth ship. The humans were coming to Station Horizon. That was fine. The Galactic Council had agreed to let them join. But there was a problem. The humans were bringing something called K9 units, 4 of them. Velthar asked the computer to explain what K9 units were. When the answer came back, he almost fell out of his chair. They were apex predators. The humans were bringing killing machines to the station. He opened a communication channel right away. His voice shook as he spoke. "Earth ship, this is Station Horizon Command. You cannot bring those creatures here. You must turn around and go back." The human commander sounded calm. Too calm. His name was Jake Morrison. "Station Horizon, we cannot do that. Our K9 units are part of our security team. They are trained officers." "You trained the predators to kill?" Velthar's voice went higher. Other workers nearby could smell his fear. There was a pause. Then Velthar heard something that sounded like laughing. No, the dogs are safe. They passed all the same tests as our human crew." Dogs. The word made Velthar check the computer again. What he read made things worse. These dogs came from wolves, wild pack hunters. They had teeth that could break bones. They could smell things from very far away. And the humans kept them in their homes. They let these predators near their children. Humans truly were from a death world. Inside the Earth ship, Lisa Chen sat next to Commander Morrison. She could hear a dog making sad sounds in the back of the ship. It was Max, her German shepherd. He knew something was happening. "Sir, maybe we should let them see the dogs," Lisa said. "Then they would know the dogs are not dangerous." Jake rubbed his head. He looked tired. "I don't think that will help, Chen. Did you read the reports? Most of these aliens evolved from prey animals. They are afraid of predators because their bodies tell them to be afraid." "But we passed all the safety checks," said Chris Parker from his seat. He was watching the navigation controls. "They didn't know we were bringing dogs," Jake answered. "The person who looked at our list didn't understand what K9 unit meant until now." The communication system made a noise again. Velthar spoke. "Human ship, we are having an emergency meeting about this. You must stay at docking port 7. Do not let the predators out of your ship." Jake sighed. "Understood, Station Horizon. We will wait." In the back of the ship, Danny Wright sat with the 4 dogs. All of them were German shepherds. The space program had trained them for months. Max sat next to Danny. The dog could tell his human was worried. "It's okay, boy," Danny said quietly. He scratched behind Max's ears. "They just don't know you yet." The other 3 dogs waited nearby. Luna worked with Kate Williams. Duke was paired with Ben Foster. Scout was the youngest. She was still learning. Her handler was Amy Brooks. The dogs had learned many things: how to move in zero gravity, what to do in emergencies, how to live on a space station. They could find dangerous chemicals. They could locate lost people in big stations. They could help crew members who felt sad or scared during long trips in space. Earth had tested them many times. Everyone on Earth said they were ready. But no one had warned the aliens that humans traveled with wolves. The emergency meeting went on for 4 hours. Velthar watched through a window as different aliens argued. Some moved their arms wildly. Some made clouds of smell that showed they were afraid. The clouds were so strong that the air cleaning systems turned on. "They are predators," said Council Member Zix. His body parts clicked together nervously. "Everything inside me says this is wrong. Why would humans do this?" "Because they are from a death world," answered Council Member Thora. She had studied human culture more than the others. "They grew up on the same planet as these creatures. They turned their world's most dangerous hunters into friends." "That is crazy," Zix said. His clicks got louder. "It proves we cannot trust them." Or, Thora said, it proves we do not understand them. The humans gave us all the information about these dogs. The dogs are very loyal to their human partners. They only attack when told to attack. In human words, they are called working dogs. Velthar looked at the files the humans had sent. There were videos of dogs doing many jobs. They found people trapped in broken buildings. They detected bombs. They helped blind humans walk safely. They even sat calmly with small human children. Yes, they were predators. That was clear from their bodies. But they did not act like wild predators. I have an idea, Velthar said finally. The humans and their K9 units can come onto the station, but they must stay in the human living area. We will watch them. If the predators show any aggression, we will make them leave right away. The council argued for another hour. Finally, they agreed. Velthar opened the communication channel to the human ship. Commander Morrison, you can dock now, but your K9 units must be controlled at all times. If anything goes wrong, you will have to leave the station immediately. Understood, Station Horizon. We will not disappoint you. Velthar hoped that was true. If those predators got loose in the station, many people could die. The docking took another hour. During that time, half the people on the station moved to areas far away from where the humans would be. Velthar watched the security cameras as the human crew finally came out of their ship. The four predators walked calmly next to their handlers. The humans held them with straps called leashes. The dogs were bigger than Velthar expected. They had strong muscles. Their heads turned to look at everything. Their teeth looked sharp when Velthar could see them. Their eyes followed movement like true hunters. Then one of them sat down and scratched its ear with its back leg. Velthar blinked all three of his eyes. That was not how predators acted. That was almost funny. Station Command, this is Lisa Chen, the human voice said. Can we go to our living quarters now? Yes, Velthar said. He kept watching the cameras. The humans walked through the corridors. They moved like they had practiced many times. The dogs stayed close to their handlers. Sometimes they sniffed the air. Sometimes they looked around. But they showed no signs of wanting to attack. When they passed a group of Venturi workers, the aliens pressed against the walls. They were shaking with fear. One of the dogs, the one called Luna, turned her head toward them. Then her tail started moving back and forth. What is that movement? Velthar asked his helper. The human files say it means the dog is happy. It shows friendliness. The predator is happy? That is what it says. Over the next few days, Velthar spent a lot of time watching the security cameras. The humans had settled into their living space well. The dogs had not attacked anyone. Instead, they seemed to sleep most of the time. I do not understand, Velthar said to Commander Morrison during their first meeting. The human had come alone. The predators were back in his quarters. Your K9 units sleep about 16 hours every day. How is this useful for security? Jake smiled. They are saving energy. When we need them, they will be ready. That is how predators work, Ambassador. They are very active for short times. Then they rest. And you trust them? In your living spaces? While you are sleeping? With my life, Jake said. His voice was serious. Dogs have been partners with humans for more than 30,000 years. They are family to us. Family. Velthar tried to understand that idea. Humans thought of apex predators as family. Everything changed on the third day. It happened by accident. A worker named Pelcor was fixing an air system near the human living area. He heard a strange sound. It was breathing, heavy and fast. Then he heard claws clicking on the floor. He turned around. One of the predators was standing in the corridor. The dog called Max stood there. He looked right at Pelcor with those hunting eyes. Pelcor froze. Every part of his body told him to run, but he knew that would make the predator chase him. He was going to die. A predator was going to kill him in the middle of a council station. Max moved his head to one side, his ears pointed forward. Then he did something Pelcor never expected. The dog sat down. He lifted one front paw. Danny Wright came running around the corner. "Max, I'm sorry, he can open doors." He stopped when he saw how scared Pelcor looked. "Hey, it's okay. He just wants to say hello. See? He wants to shake hands." "Shake hands?" "It's a greeting. Look, I'll show you." Danny knelt next to Max. He took the dog's paw and moved it up and down gently. "Good boy, Max. Very polite." Max's tail moved back and forth. His mouth was open. It looked almost like he was smiling. His tongue hung out. "Do you want to try?" Danny asked. "You don't have to, but Max is the friendliest dog I have ever known." Pelcor was curious now. Fear fought with interest inside him. Slowly, very slowly, he reached out one arm. Danny guided Max's paw to touch it softly. "Good boy," Danny said again. "See? He's gentle." Max made a pleased sound. His tail moved faster. Pelcor felt his fear go away. The predator was not hunting him. The predator was saying hello. "Why does he make that sound?" Pelcor asked. "We call that a happy grumble. It means he likes you." "The predator likes me?" "Yeah, Max likes almost everyone, don't you, boy?" Danny scratched behind Max's ears. The dog leaned into the touch. His eyes were half closed. Pelcor watched. He was amazed. The human and the predator cared about each other. It was real affection. And the predator wanted it. He looked for it. "Can I touch him?" Pelcor asked quietly. "Sure. Hold out your hand and let him smell it first. Then you can pet his head or back." Pelcor did what Danny said. Max smelled his hand for a long time. Then, the meeting happened in the human living area. Velthar brought 2 security officers with him. He was not sure what they could do if things went wrong. Commander Morrison greeted them with his usual calm manner. "Ambassador, thank you for coming. I want you to meet our team properly." The 4 dogs sat in a line. Each one sat next to their handler. They looked alert, but relaxed. Those predator eyes followed Velthar as he moved. "This is Max and his partner Danny," Jake said. "Luna and Kate, Duke and Ben, and Scout with Amy." When Jake said their names, several of the dogs' tails started to move. "They understand when you say their names?" Velthar asked. "They understand hundreds of words," Lisa explained. "Watch this. Luna, shake." Luna lifted her paw right away. Lisa took it and moved it up and down. "Good girl." Scout, roll over. The youngest dog fell onto her back and rolled over. Then she jumped back to her feet. Her tail moved very fast. "Duke, speak!" Duke made one loud bark. The sound was sharp and strong. Velthar jumped. His scales moved with alarm, but Duke just sat there. He looked happy with himself. "And Max," Danny said with a smile. "Max does the best trick. Max, smile." Max's mouth opened wide. His tongue hung out. He looked absurdly friendly for an apex predator. His tail swept the floor like a cleaning tool. Velthar felt something change in his mind. These were not mindless killing machines. These were intelligent. They could be trained. They clearly loved their human partners. "Why?" he asked finally. "Why did humans do this? Why make predators into pets?" Jake thought about the question. "Because we saw something in them worth being friends with. Because they saw something in us worth protecting. A long time ago, humans and wolves decided they were better together than apart. We hunted together. We kept each other warm. We warned each other about danger. Over thousands of generations, they became dogs, our companions, our partners, our friends. And now you bring them to space. Of course we do. Humanity goes to space. Our dogs go with us. That is who we are." Velthar walked toward Max slowly. He remembered what Pelcor had said. The dog watched him with smart eyes. His tail was still moving slowly. "May I?" Velthar asked. Max, gentle, Danny said. New friend. Max's whole body seemed to relax. He looked less alert and more welcoming. Velthar reached out and touched the dog's head. Max leaned into his touch, just like he had done with Pelkor. He made that pleased rumbling sound. Good boy, Velthar said softly. He used the human phrase he had heard many times on the security cameras. Max's tail moved harder. Deep in Velthar's chest, something warm and unexpected grew. He understood now, at least a little, why humans called them good boys. The change in relations between the dogs and the station crew happened fast. Within 1 week, small groups of curious aliens came regularly to the human living area to watch the K9 units. Within 2 weeks, several brave aliens were actually petting them. Luna became very popular with the Venturi engineers. They discovered she loved having her ears scratched. Duke developed a group of followers among the Plenorian cargo workers after he found a lost shipment using only his nose. Scout charmed everyone because she was so young and enthusiastic. And Max seemed to want to be friends with every single being on the station. But it was during a normal patrol that the dogs showed their true value to the Council species. Kate Williams was doing a security check of the lower cargo levels with Luna. The dog suddenly stopped. Her whole body went stiff. Her nose lifted, testing the air. A low sound came from her throat. What is it, girl? Kate asked. She became alert immediately. Luna pulled toward a sealed cargo container. It had arrived recently from a Zinthari merchant ship. Luna sat down in front of it and looked back at Kate. Then she barked once. It was sharp and insistent. Kate felt her blood go cold. Luna had just given the alert signal for dangerous materials. Station security, this is Williams. I need a hazmat team to Cargo Bay 7 immediately. Luna is indicating something in container Z447. The response was fast. Within minutes, the bay was sealed. A team of specialists arrived. Ambassador Velthar came too. He had taken a personal interest in what the dogs could do. You are certain? Velthar asked. They watched Luna through an observation window. The dog remained sitting. She was focused completely on the container. Luna does not give false alerts, Kate said firmly. There is something dangerous in there. The hazmat team opened the container using remote controls. Inside, buried under normal cargo, they found 12 containers of xeron gas. The Council had banned this substance because it could kill most oxygen-breathing species. Smuggling, Velthar said quietly. If that had been released in the station's air system. How did she detect it through the container? Asked one of the technicians. Dogs can smell in parts per trillion, Kate explained. Even in a sealed container, tiny molecules escape. To Luna, that gas might as well have been sitting in the open. Velthar looked at the German shepherd with new respect. She saved the station. She was just doing her job. Weren't you, Luna? Kate knelt beside her dog and gave her the treat she had been waiting for. Good girl. Such a good girl. Luna's tail wagged proudly. The incident with the smuggled xeron gas changed everything. The Council Security Committee formally asked for the K9 units to expand their patrols to other sections of the station. More human crew arrived with their dogs. Within a month, Station Horizon had become the most secure facility in the sector. But what happened next truly made the dogs legendary. The distress call came in at 3 in the morning, station time. A mining ship had suffered a terrible failure in the outer system. 15 crew members had escaped into life pods. The pods were now drifting in an asteroid belt. The pods' emergency signals were working, but the debris field made it nearly impossible to see them. We can send search drones, the operations officer reported, but it will take hours to scan the entire field. I have another idea, Commander Morrison said. Ben, how is Duke doing with vacuum work? Ben Foster smiled. He is certified for spacewalk operations, sir. So is Max. 20 minutes later, 2 humans and 2 dogs were wearing special pressure suits. The dogs looked almost funny in their custom gear. But the specially designed helmets let them breathe, see, and most importantly, smell. "This is crazy," said Zix quietly. He was watching the operation. "How can smell work in vacuum?" "It cannot," Lisa explained. "But once we locate a life pod, we will bring it inside the shuttle bay. The pods will have tiny molecules on their outside from the ship's air. The dogs will be able to identify which pods came from the mining ship and which are old debris. We are also going to try something new," Jake added. "Danny, explain." Danny knelt beside Max. Both of them were in their pressure suits in the shuttle's airlock. "Dogs are pack animals. They communicate with each other in ways we are still trying to understand. Before we left Earth, Max was introduced to the mining crew's dogs during a routine station visit. He knows their scent. He knows their sounds. Sounds do not travel in vacuum," Velthar pointed out. "No, but they travel through radio," Danny replied. "We are going to use Max's bark as a signal. If any of those pods contain crew members, their dogs barking back will create a sound pattern we can track." It sounded impossible. It was the kind of thing only humans would try. They tried it anyway. The shuttle released into the debris field. Danny suited Max in the small airlock. The dog's helmet had a special microphone connected to the ship's communications system. Danny gave the command. "Max, speak! Call!" Max barked. The sound went through the radio system with enough power to reach any working life pod within 100,000 kilometers. It was a strange, haunting sound, a dog's call traveling through the void of space. They waited. Then, faintly, from 3 different directions, came responses. The audio was distorted by distance and interference, but the computer identified them. 3 different dogs barking back. "Plot those locations," Jake ordered. The rescue operation took 6 hours, but they found all 15 crew members alive. When the first pod was opened, a small dog rushed out. It went straight to Max. The 2 of them engaged in what could only be described as a joyful reunion. The alien crew watched in amazement as the 2 dogs communicated in ways their instruments could not measure. Tail wags and body language and sounds that meant pure happiness. "They are talking to each other," Pelcor whispered. "The predators are talking." "Of course they are," Danny said, laughing as Max and his new friend played. "They are pack animals. Communication is what they do." News of the rescue spread through council space with remarkable speed. The dogs who had been feared as predators were now being called heroes. Requests came in from dozens of stations and ships. They all wanted canine units of their own. "We cannot train dogs fast enough to meet demand," Jake reported during a council session. "And honestly, we are not sure we should. The relationship between humans and dogs took thousands of years to develop. It is not something we can just export to other species." "But why not?" Thora asked. "If the dogs can save lives, detect threats, even rescue beings in space, should we not try?" "Because it is not just about the dogs," Lisa explained. "It is about the bond. Dogs do not just follow commands. They read our emotions, our body language, our intentions. They evolved alongside humans specifically. That connection might not work with other species." "Then teach us to work with them," Velthar said firmly. "Teach us to understand them as you do." Jake looked at his fellow crew members. Then he looked at Max, who sat nearby with his characteristic happy expression. "We can try," he said finally, "but you have to understand. Working with dogs is not about control. It is about partnership, respect, love." The attack came without any warning. Station Horizon's sensors picked up 3 unknown ships appearing at the edge of the system. Before the station could even send a greeting message, the ships opened fire on a civilian transport trying to dock. "Battle stations," Jake ordered as alarms rang throughout the station. "Get the civilians to the shelters." The attackers were Kresh Raiders. They were a rogue faction that had been terrorizing the outer colonies for months. Their tactics were brutal and efficient. They disabled ships, boarded them, took what they wanted, and left no witnesses. "They are targeting the docking ring," Lisa reported. "If they break through there, they will have access to the entire civilian sector," Jake finished. "How long until Council Defense Forces arrive?" 40 minutes at best. "We will never last that long." Jake opened a station-wide channel. "All security personnel to defensive positions. Human crew, Code Victor. Release the dogs." Throughout the station, 8 German shepherds were released from their quarters with their handlers. They had been training for this possibility since arriving at the station, but nobody had expected to use those protocols so soon. The Kresh broke through the outer hull at 3 points at the same time. They were insect-like beings, heavily armored, moving with frightening speed through the corridors. Station security engaged them immediately, but the invaders were experienced fighters. "Section 4 has fallen back," Kate reported. Luna was pressed against her side. "The Kresh are pushing toward the civilian shelters." "Intercept course," Danny ordered. Max was already moving ahead of him. "Station security, this is Danny Wright. We are coming up behind them." The Kresh warriors were focused on the retreating security forces ahead of them. They expected no threat from behind. That was their first mistake. Max came around the corner at full speed, 85 pounds of muscle and determination. The Kresh warrior barely had time to register the threat before Max's jaws locked onto its weapon arm. The alien's armor was tough, but Max had trained for this. He did not try to bite through the armor. He simply held on, using his weight and strength to pull the warrior off balance. Danny came around the corner seconds later. 3 station security officers followed him. With the Kresh warrior off balance, they were able to disarm and restrain it quickly. "Good boy, Max," Danny said. He was breathing hard. "Release." Max let go immediately and returned to Danny's side. He was alert for the next threat. Throughout the station, similar fights were happening. Luna detected 3 Kresh infiltrators trying to access the station's environmental systems through maintenance tunnels. Duke and Ben intercepted a boarding party heading for the command center. Scout, despite being the youngest, proved her worth by alerting Amy to a hidden explosive device. But it was in the civilian shelter where things got desperate. A group of Kresh warriors had broken through the security line. They were advancing on the shelter entrance. Inside were over 300 civilians. Many of them were children of various species. The station security was pinned down. They could not stop the advance. Jake saw it happening on the monitors. "They are going to breach the shelter." Then, over the comm, Kate's voice came through. "All K9 units, converge on civilian shelter 2. Authorization Morrison Alpha. Release protocols." Jake felt his blood run cold. "Kate, what are you doing?" "What we trained for, sir. Luna, Max, Duke, Scout, Protocol Alpha. Hold the line." What happened next became legend across Council space. The 4 dogs, freed from their handlers' direct control under Protocol Alpha, became what they had been bred to be, not killing machines, but protectors. They moved as a pack. They coordinated in ways no military unit could match. They were driven by an instinct older than civilization itself. The Kresh warriors were apex predators on their own world, but they had never faced Earth's apex predators, predators refined by 30,000 years of partnership with humans. Max hit the first warrior high, targeting the vulnerable joint where its helmet met its body armor. Luna went low. Her jaws found the weak points in the leg armor. Duke and Scout flanked. They worked together to separate the group. The Kresh fought back. But they were facing something they did not understand. The dogs were not just attacking. They were defending. Every move was calculated to prevent the raiders from advancing, to protect the shelter door behind them. When station security finally fought through, they found the Kresh retreating. All 4 dogs were still standing. They formed a barrier in front of the shelter entrance. Max had blood on his mouth, but his tail was wagging. Luna sat calmly, though her breathing was heavy. Duke and Scout maintained their alert postures. They were ready for another assault. Behind them, the shelter door was untouched. "Stand down," Kate commanded. She was running up with the other handlers. "Good dogs, stand down." The transformation was immediate. The fierce protectors became good boys again. Their tails wagged as their humans approached. They had done their job. Now they wanted their rewards. The Kresh withdrawal was swift once they realized they were facing organized resistance. The Council Defense Forces arrived 20 minutes later to find the raiders already fleeing into hyperspace. Ambassador Velthar walked through the damaged sections of the station. He was seeing the aftermath of the battle. When he reached the civilian shelter, he found a crowd of aliens surrounding the 4 dogs. The dogs were accepting pets and praise from dozens of grateful beings. "They saved us," a Plenorian mother said. She was holding her child. "The predators saved us." "Not predators," Velthar corrected gently. "Protectors, good boys." Max looked up at the sound of his favorite phrase. His tail wagged so hard his entire back end moved from side to side. Velthar knelt down and was immediately surrounded by 4 dogs seeking attention. "You are all good boys," he said. His voice was thick with emotion. "Such good boys." That evening, the council gathered for an emergency session. For the first time in its history, the chamber included non-sentient beings as formal attendees. Max, Luna, Duke, and Scout sat beside their handlers. Each wore a special collar that showed their new status as honorary council security officers. "These dogs," Velthar said formally, "have demonstrated qualities we have long believed were unique to sentient beings. Courage, loyalty, selflessness. They put themselves in danger to protect beings they barely know, from species they had never encountered until weeks ago. They did this not because they were ordered to, but because they understood what was at stake." He paused. He looked at the 4 German shepherds. "I propose we formally recognize Earth's K9 units as security partners of the Galactic Council. And I propose we begin the difficult work of truly understanding what humans have known for thousands of years, that the line between predator and protector is not defined by teeth or claws, but by choice." The motion passed unanimously. For the first time, the council chamber echoed with a sound never heard there before, the happy barking of 4 very good boys who had no idea they had just made history. But they would gladly do it all again if their pack needed them, because that was what dogs did. They protected their pack, no matter how strange that pack might be. 6 months after the Kresh attack, Station Horizon looked very different. Where once there had been fear and separation, now there was something new. In the corridors, it was common to see aliens walking with dogs. Humans were teaching alien colleagues how to read canine body language. Mixed species groups worked in the station's new pack training facilities. The first non-human to successfully complete K9 handler certification was Pelkor. He was the Krynoth maintenance worker who had been the first to touch Max. His partner was a young German shepherd named Nova. She had been brought up from Earth specifically for the program. "I never thought I would understand predators," Pelkor said during the graduation ceremony. Nova sat proudly beside him. "But Danny told me something that changed my mind. He said dogs are not just predators, they are pack animals, and a pack protects its members no matter what species they are." Velthar watched the ceremony with pride. In his own quarters, he had a new responsibility. The council had approved his request to become a handler. His partner, a patient older dog named Bear, was currently sleeping on his meditation cushion. He was snoring softly. "They have changed us," Thora observed. She was standing beside Velthar. "The humans brought their dogs, and suddenly we are all pack animals." "Is that a bad thing?" Velthar asked. "No," Thora said thoughtfully. I think it might be exactly what the Council needed. We have spent so long being afraid of predators that we forgot cooperation can cross species lines. The training program had expanded beyond anyone's expectations. Requests came in from across Council space, not just for security work, but for dozens of other applications. Dogs proved exceptional at detecting structural weaknesses in ships and stations. They provided psychological support to crews on long voyages. They even participated in first contact situations, where their friendly manner helped break tension. But it was the search and rescue work that truly captured the Council's imagination. A mining accident on Kepler 442b trapped 17 workers deep underground. Traditional rescue methods were stopped by the unstable geology. The rescue coordinator sent out a call. We need the dogs. Jake Morrison led the team personally. He brought Max, Luna, Duke, and Scout, along with 6 other K9 units that had been deployed across the sector. The dogs worked in the difficult conditions without complaint. They used their incredible sense of smell to locate survivors through meters of rock and debris. Lisa Chen stood in the new K9 training center. She watched a mixed group of species learn basic handling skills. A Venturi was practicing recall commands with a golden retriever. A Kreenoth was learning to read stress signals in a border collie. A Planorian was being taught to play with an enthusiastic Labrador puppy. You know what is funny? Kate said, joining her. We brought dogs to space thinking they would help us adjust to being so far from home. Turns out they are helping everyone adjust to each other. Dogs have always been good at that, Lisa replied. Breaking down barriers, making friends. That is kind of their superpower. Luna walked over and leaned against Kate's legs. A moment later, 3 alien handlers' dogs joined them. They created a small pack around the 2 humans. Yeah, Kate said. She was scratching Luna's ears while petting 2 other dogs at the same time. That is definitely their superpower. The real test came during the first joint Council Earth exploration mission to an uncharted system. The exploratory vessel carried a crew of 40 beings from 7 different species. It included 12 K9 units with mixed human and alien handlers. When they discovered a derelict ship drifting near a gas giant, it was Max and Pelcor with Nova who volunteered for the initial investigation. Are you sure? Jake asked his longtime partner. We do not know what is over there. I am sure, Pelcor replied. The Kreenoth had grown confident in the months since bonding with Nova. Besides, Max has been teaching Nova everything he knows. They will be fine. The 2 dogs explored the derelict carefully. Their handlers stayed close behind. What they found shocked everyone. The ship was from an unknown species, but it had clearly been carrying dogs. Empty kennels lined one section of the cargo bay. They were studying them, the xenobiology team concluded after examining the ship's logs. This species, whoever they were, discovered Earth decades ago. They were watching humans and dogs interact. The last log entry says they were returning home to recommend first contact. They said that any species capable of such partnership was worth knowing. What happened to them? Velthar asked. Unknown. The ship was damaged. The crew evacuated in escape pods. But they left the dogs' supplies here. Food and water in stasis, as if they hoped to return for them. Jake looked at the empty kennels with sadness. They understood, he said quietly. They saw what we have with dogs and recognized it for what it is. Which is? Asked a Venturi officer. Hope, Jake replied. Dogs gave humans hope when we were still hiding in caves, afraid of the dark. They gave us companionship when we were alone. They gave us protection when we were vulnerable. And they still do all of that, for any species willing to learn. He turned to address the entire crew. This unknown species saw that and wanted to be part of it. Now we are here. Humans and Kreenoth and Venturi and Planorians, all working together because dogs taught us how to be a pack. That is their real gift, not their teeth or their sense of smell or their courage. It is their ability to make us better than we are alone. Max, as if understanding the weight of the moment, barked once. It echoed through the ship. From the exploration vessel's kennels, a dozen dogs answered. Their voices carried through space, a sound that had echoed from Earth to the stars. The void echoed their calls, and the pack grew stronger. A year after Station Horizon first opened its doors to dogs, Ambassador Velthar prepared his report to the full Galactic Council Assembly. Bear slept at his feet. This was now a familiar sight in council chambers. Around the room, a dozen other council members had their own K9 partners. "We were wrong to fear them," Velthar began his address. "We saw predators and assumed danger. We saw teeth and claws and thought only of violence. But humans saw something different. They saw potential partners. And in seeing that, they changed both species forever." He pointed to Bear, who lifted his head at the attention. His tail thumped against the floor. "These dogs have taught us more about cooperation, loyalty, and courage than 1,000 diplomatic treaties. They have shown us that family is not defined by biology, that trust must be earned through action, and that sometimes the fiercest protectors have the gentlest hearts. The humans call them good boys, and I have come to understand what that means. It is not just praise for obedience. It is recognition of character, of effort, of inherent goodness. These dogs are good boys because they choose to be every day in everything they do." Velthar looked out at the assembled council, at the representatives of dozens of species who had once feared Earth's companions. "The Galactic Council has stood for 3,000 cycles on principles of cooperation and mutual benefit. Today I propose we adopt a new principle, one taught to us by an unlikely source. The pack is stronger together, and there is always room for one more good boy." The motion passed with resounding support. The Galactic Council formally recognized the human-canine partnership as a template for interspecies cooperation. They established the first council-wide K9 program. That night, Jake Morrison sat in Station Horizon's observation lounge with Max beside him. He was watching the stars. All around them, dozens of beings of multiple species sat with their own dogs, a sight that would have been unthinkable a year ago. "You know what, Max?" Jake said softly. He was scratching behind his partner's ears. "When we left Earth, I thought we were bringing dogs to space to help us cope with being so far from home." Max looked up at him with those intelligent brown eyes. His tail wagged slowly. "But I think maybe dogs were always meant for this. 30,000 years of evolution, of partnership, of learning to bridge the gap between species. Maybe they were preparing for this moment all along. When humanity reached the stars, we would need ambassadors who could teach the galaxy what we had learned." Max licked his hand. Then he returned his attention to the window. Out there, across council space, thousands of dogs were doing what they had always done, making friends, protecting their pack, being good boys. And in the void between stars, their calls echoed, a promise carried across the darkness. Wherever humans went, wherever their pack extended, there would always be good boys to light the way. The Deathworlders had brought their beasts to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. Because it turns out the most dangerous thing about humans was not their weapons, or their resilience, or their refusal to give up. It was their ability to make family out of predators. To turn fear into love, and to teach the galaxy that being a good boy was the highest calling any being could aspire to, no matter how many legs they had. Max barked once, softly. From across the station, Nova answered. Then Bear added his voice, deeper and slower. Luna joined in, followed by Duke, Scout, and dozens of other dogs spread throughout the facility. The void echoed their calls, and the pack was complete. Years passed. The K9 program expanded across Council space at a rate nobody had predicted. Training centers opened on dozens of worlds. Alien species who had once feared predators now welcomed them into their homes, their workplaces, their lives. The program's success created new challenges. Not every species bonded with dogs as easily as humans did. The Xanthari, with their chemical-based communication, struggled at first. The Morvex, who valued individual achievement over pack dynamics, had to learn new ways of thinking. The Quilith, tiny beings barely a quarter of a dog's size, needed special training protocols. But they all learned, because the dogs, patient as ever, taught them. A Xanthari named Velkos became the first of his species to complete handler training. His partner, a gentle golden retriever named Sunny, learned to respond to chemical signals in addition to voice commands. Together, they revolutionized how their species understood cooperation. A Morvex warrior named Graxton, raised to believe in solitary strength, discovered that working with his partner, a Belgian Malinois named Ace, made him stronger than he had ever been alone. His success inspired others of his kind. A Quileth scientist named Pip, initially terrified of the massive creatures, bonded with a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel named Penny. The small dog's gentle nature and Pip's quick mind created a partnership that proved size did not matter when hearts aligned. The dogs adapted to each species' needs. They learned new commands in alien languages. They adjusted to different gravitational environments. They accepted food from beings whose biochemistry was nothing like Earth's. And through it all, they remained what they had always been: loyal, patient, good. But the greatest testament to the program's success came during what would later be called the Void Crisis. A massive spatial anomaly appeared in the Deneb sector. It was pulling ships off course, disrupting communications, causing navigation systems to fail. Dozens of vessels were stranded in the affected area. Rescue operations were nearly impossible due to the anomaly's interference with sensors. The Council Emergency Response Team assembled the largest fleet in its history, but they faced a seemingly impossible task. How do you find lost ships when your instruments do not work? "We need the dogs," someone said. The call went out across Council space. Within 48 hours, over 200 K9 units and their handlers arrived. They came from dozens of worlds: humans, Kreenoth, Venturi, Planorians, Xanthari, Morvex, Quilith, and more. Each handler brought their partner. Each dog brought their unique abilities. Jake Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, coordinated the operation from the command ship. Max, graying around the muzzle but still sharp, lay beside his chair. They had been partners for over a decade now. 10 years after the first dogs arrived at Station Horizon, the galaxy had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. The K9 program had grown from a small experiment to a cornerstone of Council society. Over 10,000 dogs now served across Council space, partnered with beings from 47 different species. But change, as always, brought new challenges. The Zarathi Collective, a species that had long remained isolated from the Council, sent their first diplomatic mission to Station Horizon. They were reptilian beings, cold-blooded, with a culture built on logic and calculation. They had heard of the K9 program and wanted to understand it. Ambassador Velthar, now elderly but still passionate about his work, greeted them personally. Bear, also aging but still loyal, walked slowly beside him. "Welcome to Station Horizon," Velthar said. "We are honored by your visit." The Zarathi leader, Magistrate Zexral, observed Bear with clinical interest. "This is one of the Earth predators, the dogs." "This is Bear, my partner," Velthar corrected gently. "And yes, he is a dog." "We have studied your reports," Zexral said. His voice was flat, showing no emotion. The concept of bonding with predators contradicts all logical survival instincts. We have come to determine if this is a form of mass delusion, or if there is something we have not understood. Velthar smiled. I thought the same thing once. Come, let me show you. Over the next week, the Zarathi delegation observed the K9 program in action. They watched dogs detect hazardous materials. They saw search and rescue operations. They observed the training programs where young dogs learned to work with new handlers. But they remained unconvinced. These are trained behaviors, Zexral explained. The dogs follow commands because they have been conditioned to do so. This is not partnership. This is domestication. Control. Danny Wright, now a senior trainer, overheard the comment. Max, now retired from active duty but still sharp, sat beside him. With respect, Magistrate, you are only seeing part of the picture. May I demonstrate something? Zexral agreed. Danny addressed Max. Max, buddy, we are going for a walk. Get your leash. Max immediately trotted to a wall hook where several leashes hung. But instead of grabbing his own leash, he grabbed Bear's leash and brought it to Velthar. I said, get your leash, Max, Danny repeated. Max looked at Bear, then at Velthar, then back at Danny. He seemed to consider for a moment. Then he went back and got his own leash, but also grabbed Bear's and brought both. What just happened? Zexral asked. Max understood my command, Danny explained. But he also saw that Bear was here with Velthar. He knows Bear does not move as easily as he used to. He knows Bear likes walks. So he made a decision. He thought about what others needed, not just what he was told to do. That is not conditioning. That is thinking. Caring. The Zarathi delegation was silent. Let me show you something else, Velthar said. He walked slowly to a chair and sat down. He did not say anything. He did not give any command. But Bear immediately came to him and laid his head on Velthar's lap. The old ambassador was clearly in some pain, and the old dog had sensed it. How did it know? Zexral asked. Because he knows me, Velthar said softly, stroking Bear's head. Because we have been partners for 10 years. Because he pays attention. Because he cares. That is what dogs do. They pay attention to their pack. They care. For the first time, Zexral's voice showed something other than flat logic. There was curiosity. But why? What benefit does the dog receive? The same benefit I receive, Velthar answered. Companionship, purpose, love. Bears receives food and shelter, yes. But he also receives affection, respect, and a place in our pack. And those things matter to him just as much as they matter to me. The Zarathi spent another week at the station. They asked questions. They observed more operations. They even, with great hesitation, agreed to interact with some of the friendlier dogs. On the last day of their visit, something unexpected happened. A young Zarathi junior diplomat named Sileth sat in the training center, watching a group of puppies play. One of the puppies, an Australian shepherd mix named Comet, wandered over to her and sat down, looking up at her with bright, curious eyes. It wants something, Sileth said nervously. He wants to say hello, Amy Brooks explained. She was now the head of the puppy training program. Hold out your hand and let him sniff it. Sileth did so, her hand trembling slightly. Comet sniffed it thoroughly, then licked her hand once and wagged his tail. Why did it lick me? It is a friendly gesture. He likes you. But it does not know me. Dogs do not need to know you to like you, Amy said with a smile. That is kind of their thing. They give trust freely until given a reason not to. Sileth looked at the puppy for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached out and touched his head. Comet leaned into her touch, tail wagging harder. Something changed in Sileth's expression. The clinical detachment faded. This feeling, she said quietly. This is what you have all been trying to explain. Yes, Amy said. That is it exactly. When the Zarathi delegation left, they took with them something unexpected, a request. They wanted to begin their own pilot program. They wanted to learn if logic and emotion could coexist in partnership with dogs. 6 months later, the first Zarathi handler graduated from the program. It was Sileth partnered with Comet. Their success opened the door for countless others, but not every story had a happy beginning. The Dracon sovereignty was a military power that had long viewed the K9 program with suspicion. They believed the dogs were weapons, tools for control and manipulation. When they finally agreed to send observers, it was with skepticism bordering on hostility. General Krelvos, a scarred veteran of many conflicts, made his opinion clear from the start. "We do not need pets. We need soldiers." "Dogs are not pets," Jake explained patiently. "And they are not just soldiers either. They are partners." "Show me," Krelvos challenged. The demonstration took place in a training facility. The Dracon observers watched as K9 units performed various tasks, detecting explosives, navigating obstacle courses, following complex commands. Krelvos was unimpressed. "Our soldiers can do all of this." "Can your soldiers do this?" Lisa asked. She called Luna over. The veteran dog, now 10 years old, approached calmly. "Luna, find friend." Luna looked around the room. Her eyes settled on a young Draken soldier who was standing apart from the others. He looked uncomfortable, isolated from his group. Luna walked over to him and sat down beside him, leaning gently against his leg. The young soldier looked startled. Then, almost without thinking, he reached down and touched Luna's head. His posture relaxed. A small smile appeared on his face. "What is your name?" Lisa asked him. "Veldrak, ma'am." "Veldrak. Have you ever touched a dog before?" "No, ma'am, but I have heard of them. My unit was rescued by a K9 team last year. I never got to thank them." "Luna knows that," Lisa said. "She sensed something in you. Maybe recognition. Maybe gratitude. Maybe just that you needed a friend right now. And she responded. That is what dogs do. They sense what we need, sometimes before we know it ourselves." General Krelvos watched this exchange. His expression did not change. But later that evening, he requested a private meeting with Jake. "I lost my partner in the war," Krelvos said. His voice was rough. "A soldier who fought beside me for 15 years. When he died, I thought I would never work with another, that the partnership was too painful to risk again." "I understand," Jake said. "Do you?" Krelvos looked at Max, who was lying nearby. "How old is that dog?" 13. For his breed, that is very old." "And when he dies, what will you do?" The question hung in the air. Jake was quiet for a moment. "I will grieve," he said finally. "It will hurt more than almost anything I have ever experienced, and then eventually I will honor his memory by giving another dog the kind of life he had, because that is what Max would want, for the pack to continue." Krelvos stared at him. "You would willingly face that pain again?" "Yes, because the years of joy are worth the eventual pain. Max has been my partner, my friend, my family for 13 years. Would I give up those years to avoid the pain of losing him? Never." Something in Krelvos's expression cracked. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "I have been avoiding the wrong thing." 3 months later, General Krelvos became the first Dracon to complete handler certification. His partner was a German shepherd named Victor, a serious, disciplined dog who matched the general's personality perfectly. They became inseparable. But the most profound change came not from a major military power or a scientific collective. It came from a small, peaceful species called the Lumini. The Lumini were empathic beings who felt the emotions of those around them. For them, the presence of dogs was overwhelming at first. The pure, unconditional positive emotions that dogs radiated constantly was almost too much for them to process. But a young Lumini named Shiara saw potential in that overwhelming feeling. "What if," she proposed, "we could learn to channel that? What if we could understand it?" She became the first Lumini handler, partnered with a therapy dog named Hope. Together, they pioneered a new field that combined Lumini empathic abilities with canine emotional intelligence. They could detect psychological trauma, identify beings in emotional distress, and provide support in ways that neither species could accomplish alone. Their work revolutionized mental health care across Council space. Depression, PTSD, anxiety disorders that had plagued various species for generations became more treatable, not because of new medicines or technologies, but because of the simple presence of dogs who cared and Luminae who could interpret and amplify that care. As more species joined the K9 program, each brought their own unique contribution. The Chrysalians, with their hive mind communication, taught dogs to work in larger coordinated groups. The Netharii, who navigated using magnetic fields, learned from dogs how to enhance their natural navigation abilities. The Quaraks, who had no concept of play, discovered through dogs that joy could be a form of bonding as important as any work. The galaxy was changing, one partnership at a time. But with Max growing older, Jake knew his time with his partner was limited. One evening, sitting in his quarters with Max's head in his lap, he spoke to the old dog. "You know, Max, when we first came to the station, I thought we were just doing a job, security work, showing the aliens that dogs were not dangerous, but you did so much more than that." Max's tail thumped weakly against the floor. "You taught them what it means to be a pack. You showed them that species does not matter, that love does not require words, that courage is not about size or strength, but about standing up when your pack needs you." Max looked up at him with cloudy eyes, but the intelligence and love in them was as clear as ever. "You have been the best partner, the best friend anyone could ask for. And when your time comes, whenever that is, I want you to know something. Your legacy will not end. Across the galaxy, thousands of dogs are doing what you taught them, making friends, protecting their packs, being good boys. That is your gift to the universe, Max. You showed everyone what good boys can do." Max licked his hand, then settled back down with a contented sigh. 2 years later, Max passed away peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by those who loved him. The funeral was attended by beings from 40 different species. They came to honor not just a dog, but a legend. The first dog to set paw on a council station, the first to befriend an alien, the first to show the galaxy what humans had known for 30,000 years, that dogs were not just animals, they were family. Jake stood before the assembled crowd, Max's collar in his hands. "Max was a good boy," he said simply. "The very best, and his legacy will continue in every dog that follows, in every partnership formed, in every pack that grows stronger." He looked out at the crowd, at the hundreds of handlers with their K9 partners, at the aliens who had learned to love what they once feared, at the puppies in training who would carry on Max's work. "The void echoed his calls," Jake said, "and the galaxy answered. We are all packed now, and there is always room for one more good boy." The crowd was silent for a moment. Then, as one, every handler gave a command. "Speak!" Hundreds of dogs barked, their voices carrying through the station, through space, through the hearts of all who heard them. A tribute to Max, a promise to continue his work, a reminder that the bond between species, built on love and trust and loyalty, was stronger than any force in the universe. In his quarters, Velthar sat with Bear, both of them old now, both of them tired. They listened to the chorus of barks echoing through the station. "Max started this," Velthar said softly to Bear. "He started everything, and now look at us. The galaxy is full of good boys, all because one dog was patient with a scared alien who did not know any better." Bear's tail wagged slowly, and Velthar smiled. You are a good boy too, Bear. Such a good boy. Across the galaxy, in stations and ships and planets, the K9 program continued to grow. New species joined. New handlers graduated. New dogs were born and trained and loved. The partnerships deepened, the pack expanded, and the lessons Max had taught became woven into the very fabric of Council society. The Deathworlders had brought their beasts to the stars, and in doing so they had given the galaxy a gift beyond price. Not weapons or technology or power, but something far more valuable. They had taught the galaxy how to love. And in the void between stars, Max's call still echoed, a reminder that being a good boy was the highest calling any being could aspire to. That pack was everything, that love conquered fear, and that sometimes the smallest acts of friendship could change the entire universe. "We will divide into search teams," Jake announced. "Each team will include multiple species and their K9 partners. The dogs will use their natural senses to navigate where our instruments fail. Trust your partners. Trust your pack." The operation was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Ships moved slowly through the affected zone, guided not by sensors, but by the instincts of dogs who could sense magnetic fields, detect minute changes in air composition, and somehow maintain orientation when all electronic systems failed. Luna, now one of the most decorated K9 officers in Council history, led her team to 6 stranded vessels. Duke located an escape pod that had been drifting for days. Scout, no longer the youngest but still enthusiastic, found a civilian transport whose distress beacon had failed. And Max, in what many considered his finest hour, guided his team through the heart of the anomaly to locate the command ship of the Planorian fleet. The ship had been carrying 300 crew members and had been missing for over 70 hours. When they finally emerged from the anomaly, all lost ships accounted for, all crews safe, the galaxy celebrated. But in the quiet moments afterward, sitting in observation lounges and cargo bays and rescue ships, the handlers and their dogs simply rested together. They had done what packs do. They had protected each other. And in doing so, they had proven once and for all that the bond between human and dog was not just an Earth phenomenon. It was universal. When Max barked his alert signal, the rescue team began drilling. 30 hours later, all 17 miners were pulled from the rubble alive. "How did they do it?" the miners asked once they were safe. "How did the dogs find us?" "Because you were part of the pack," Danny explained simply. "And pack members do not leave each other behind." One of the rescued miners, a Venturi named Krell, requested handler training immediately. "I want to work with them," he said. "I want to learn what the humans know." The cultural exchange worked both ways. Humans learned from the aliens, too. The Venturi contributed their understanding of pack dynamics in multi-species groups. The Kreenoth shared their architectural knowledge to design better facilities for dogs in space. The Planorians developed new food formulations that kept dogs healthy in various gravitational environments. What emerged was something unprecedented, a truly cooperative interspecies effort, all centered around Earth's 4-legged ambassadors. "Love for a predator?" Zix asked. "Love for a friend," Danny corrected. "That is what they are to us. Friends." The council session ended with a historic agreement. Earth would establish a K9 training program for council species. They would teach them not just how to work with dogs, but how to form the bonds that made the relationship possible. That night, Velthar sat in the observation lounge. He was watching Earth's moon rise over the planet on the view screen. Beside him, after weeks of building trust, Max lay with his head on Velthar's lap. The dog's tail wagged slowly as the ambassador scratched behind his ears. "Good boy," Velthar said quietly. Max's tail wagged harder. Somewhere in the void of space, Velthar could almost hear the echoes of 1,000 generations of dogs calling back through time, pack animals finding new pack members, even across the gulf between species. Perhaps, Velthar thought, that was what made humans so dangerous. Not their weapons or their technology, but their ability to turn enemies into friends, to turn predators into partners, to turn fear into love. Max looked at Danny. Danny nodded. When Pelcor touched the top of Max's head, the fur was softer than he expected. It was warm and thick. Max's tail moved even faster. "He's beautiful," Pelcor whispered. He was surprised at his own words. "Yeah, he is," Danny agreed. "Best partner I could ask for." The story of Pelcor touching one of the predators spread through the station fast. He had touched a predator and lived. More than that, he said it was nice. Velthar decided he needed to see for himself.